Good day, people, and welcome back to Illustrator 101. Um, One of the really important things I wanted to point out to you guys is the fact that if I just go to Google and punch in kids triathlon logo, I'm going to get a ton of these kind of logos that pop up that have been done before. So I want you guys to make sure that when you're sourcing these logos and stuff, that you're using them for inspiration and not just directly stealing them. I don't want to see you guys using somebody else's work, exactly, but you can use them for inspiration to do your own. I mean, it would be pretty easy just to bring it in and go live trays, and let's put that up to 200 or so. There we go. There we go. Ta-da! I've got a bunch of logos, and I'll just go expand, and then there you go, Mr. Morton. I'm done. Well, that's not going to work for me. It's not going to work for you either. But you might be able to see some sort of elements. Here's the water coming out. Oh, that's kind of a cool idea. Maybe I'll have the water go like that, and I'll put my own icons here. So use the stuff that you find on the net, iconographically, to give you inspiration for this project. Don't directly steal stuff. If you have a photographic image, you might want to take that and then just bring it into to Illustrator here, and to lock it with the object lock menu, right? Selection lock, and then you can draw right on top of it, and then unlock it and delete it later. So all you're left with are your Illustrator lines. So you can use photographs as inspiration in order to trace on them what something looks like. And don't forget, you're trying to stylize it so that it looks more like a logo, and that each of these figures sort of fits together. You don't want to do a style of one and then a style of a second one and a style of a third. You want them to all kind of fit together. You notice how these logos all kind of go together. They all have a theme that holds them together. So that's what you're looking for. So the next aspect I want to talk to you guys about is spot colors. Now, when you're doing something like silk screening or preparing a logo, the more colors you have in a logo, the more expensive it's going to be to produce. So we've been grabbing, swatches and stuff like that. These are all different colors, and when we click on them and we look at the color value of those particular swatches, you can see that they are rated on a different types of scales here. But these are combinations of colors that are made up on the cyan, magenta, yellow, black. That's CMYK. Cyan, magenta, yellow, black. And these particular colors are made up of these four colors. When you're doing silk screening, they're getting the colors straight out of a pot. So we have to go to what's called spot colors. Now you can make your own spot colors simply by going to the swatch menu. Swatch menu and the options menu on the swatch menu. So I'm going to pull that out for a second. And on the options menu here, we have new swatch. So it'll bring up this swatch window. I can then decide exactly what I want to call this color, Muskoka blue. And instead of this color type being a process color, which is cyan, magenta, yellow, black, I'm going to make it a spot color. When I make it a spot color, I can still determine exactly what that color looks like on screen. Say I make it a darker blue. But now it's a spot color. When I say OK, you'll notice that in the swatches menu I have a little extra line that goes around it, and it's now marked Muskoka blue. You'll also notice in the color, instead of being made up of cyan, magenta, yellow, black, it's now a specific color. And they would get a color like this straight out of a pot of blue ink, and they would use that as the color. Now, white is a color as well in silk screening, because if you have to print something on a dark t-shirt, you'd have to actually use white ink, so that would be considered a color. And black is considered a color as well. And we have three colors to work with on this logo. So you have to make yourself three different colors. Doesn't have to be black, but black is considered a color. It's not a freebie. So if you use black, then you have two other colors to work with. You could also make a spot color, new swatch, process color, spot color, Muskoka pink, and OK. So now I have two colors in my swatches, Muskoka pink and Muskoka blue. I have all of these other ones, which are CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, black. But now I can pick to two colors. So any element that I draw, I can decide that I'm going to make it Muskoka pink or Muskoka blue. One last thing on the color values. If I look at the options menu on my color palette, we see we have grayscale, which converts colors to grayscale. We have RGB, red, green, blue, which is your color on the screen. And we have HSB, which is hue, saturation, brightness, but we're not going to work with that. We have CMYK, which is cyan, magenta, yellow, black. Those are the four process colors: cyan, magenta, yellow, black. And they are used for 99% of all of the color printing in the world, because out of all these colors you can get a wide range, 8,500 colors right off the bat, plus tints and tones that will allow you to produce all the color accurately in magazines and in full color printing. You can decide exactly what kind of scale you want to work with simply by switching it to RGB. So if you're doing web work, then you want to keep it in RGB. If you're doing any kind of print, you can want to do it to cyan, magenta, yellow, black. And the cyan, magenta, yellow, black is also very much like kindergarten coloring. If it's just blue is the cyan, and then if I were to add yellow, blue and yellow makes green. And if I take that out, blue and red makes purple. And in this case, take out the blue, magenta, which is a pink, and yellow make red, and yellow and any portion of magenta makes an orange. And then you have varying tints where you can add black to any of those colors so that they will give you different tones of a particular color or shades. The last part of the demo today is I want to show you some cool things you can do with typography. So you guys are on, dafont.com, downloading fonts into your M drive that you want to use. I'll get those installed by Friday. But we basically need you to grab any kind of fonts you're interested in using. Now, when you have a font, if I hold the command key down, I get the arrow so I can move it around. There's our bottom line. You can tell this is font because it has an underline on it. And if I go and I colorize it, and I try to fill it with a gradient, I don't get a gradient. I can fill it with a spot color. There's our Muskoka pink and Muskoka blue. But when I try to fill it with a gradient, it doesn't work. I need to do something else to it. I need to outline the type. So I go under type and I say create outlines. So that's type, create outlines. When I do that, boom, it has become, as you can see, outline or actual graphics. What I can do with this, of course, is if I go to my direct selection arrow, I can actually click on the anchor points that now make up that particular path, and I can play with those anchor points to stylize and give more oomph to my my particular fonts. If I want this gradation to go from here to here, from beginning to end, I have to make this a compound path. So I'm going to select all of that. I'm going to go down compound path, make it. Now it's a compound path, and now when I put in the gradient, I get the gradient going all the way through because it's joined together like a compound path. Another cool thing I can do is I can actually have a stroke and a fill on this. So I'm gonna let's see, fill this with pink and go to my stroke. So I select my stroke and I'm going to put a blue line on that. I'm gonna go to my size and just make that a little larger. So you can see I can put on some outside color. Now the problem here, of course, is that it grows to the inside and outside, and I can put that to the inside or to the outside. So when I put it to the outside, I can actually see all of the fonts. Now I can also, you see how it's really sharp. I can also round out the corners on those by selecting the rounded part right here on the stroke menu, and that provides me with a nice rounded feel, which is probably better for like a kid's logo. A quick technique, I'm gonna punch in Muskoka. So you'll notice that this is black right now. A lot of times we want to put emphasis on letters by having a drop shadow. So this is kind of cool. If I take that and I click on it and I start to move it, you got to get the feel for that right there. You can see its color with a drop shadow. Now if I hold down the Alt key at the same time, of course we get the double up on the arrow, which tells me that I am drag copying something, which means I'm not only moving it, but I'm also copying it at the same time. So when I get it where I want it, let go of the mouse button. Now I have two copies, one on top of each other, and I can simply go to my fill and color that like that. Fairly simple way to put a drop shadow on the type. And again, don't forget, black is a color. So keep working on your logos today. Have fun, fun, fun. And tomorrow, the flower garden is due. So make sure you get that finished up today.